He's like the only guy I've ever seen. He really looks forward to it.
Trump just named his MAGA heir, Vice-President JD Vance. Loyalty over leadership, aggression over diplomacy. As Vance steps up as Trump's attack dog, the GOP's future looks less like democracy and more like a dynasty. Rubio may hover, but Trump's message is clear. Obedience is the new qualification. American President Donald Trump has suggested that Vice-President JD Vance is most likely the heir apparent to the Make America Great Again movement, the furthest he's gone in backing Vance as a future presidential candidate. Trump also proposed that Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio join for a Republican ticket in the 2028 presidential election.
You said this morning that you probably won't be running for a third term. This weekend, Secretary of State Rubio said that he thought JD Vance would be a great nominee. You could clear the entire Republican field right now. Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is JD Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with JD in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job and he would be probably favored at this point.
Trump was at the South Court Auditorium, where he signed an executive order to create a 2028 Los Angeles Olympics task force. When senior Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy asked him if Vance was likely to become the face of the Make America Great Again movement after noting the president said he wouldn't be running for a third term. The American president also said other incredible people in his cabinet could possibly lead the MAGA movement. Trump and some of his allies have previously floated the idea of him running for a third term, which is constitutionally prohibited. Rubio ran against Trump during the 2016 primary, but has since positioned himself as a Trump ally. Trump has declined in the past to offer any endorsement for a 2028 successor. He said in February that Vance was very capable, but that it was too early to name him as the leading candidate. CNN has previously reported that Vance's performance as a key diplomat and top surrogate selling Trump's foreign policy is one of multiple signs the 40-year-old one-time Marine and Ohio senator has carved out a sizable role in the second Trump administration. In addition to name-dropping Vance, Trump also positioned his focus on US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has essentially been a firebrand partner in the American president's immigration crackdown efforts as well. Back in 2024, Rubio's name also came up as a potential running mate for Trump. Rubio has also briefly addressed the talk of the 2028 GOP ticket. Last month, Rubio dismissed speculation that he could be the Republican Party's 2028 presidential nominee. Instead, he threw his support behind Vance. Calling Vance a great nominee, the state secretary commended his efforts as the US vice president. Rubio told Trump's daughter-in-law Lara Trump on Fox News, "He's a close friend and I hope he intends to do it, but I know it's kind of early." Meanwhile, Vance seems to be on the same page as Rubio about their friendship despite emerging as rivals for the 2025 VP pick. Vance recently told CNN that Rubio was incredibly competent and reliable, and he's also one of my closest friends in the administration. Rubio, however, hasn't entirely said no to the possibility of turning up for his own presidential run. Potentially tossing his name into the mix, he said, "You never know what the future holds." The conversation reported in March earlier this year that, according to some of the people who have taken on the role, the US vice presidency is famously rather dull and mostly frustrating. Democrats like California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is also seen as a potential candidate for the 2028 presidency, have criticized Vance. If JD Vance is the heir apparent to Trump's MAGA movement, we should all be alarmed. If this face doesn't scare you, I don't know what will. However, JD Vance, the current vice president, appears to have little intention of sitting back in the shadows while waiting for his chance at the top job. The Conversation wrote that instead, the former Marine turned politician is rapidly turning into Donald Trump's high-profile attack dog. Vance's aggressive questioning of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a televised press conference at the White House on February 28th switched the tone of the whole event from uncomfortable to disastrous.
No, in this
Even
entire
today,
meeting, you said thank
even
you.
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country. Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
The press conference, which had been set up to sign a US-Ukraine mineral deal, descended into chaos and ended with Trump deciding that he was not prepared to go ahead and that Zelensky was not ready. The New York Times White House correspondent Michael Shear described the astonishing spectacle of a vice president inserting himself into a tense diplomatic melee as both a sign of Vance's media savvy as well as his desire not to be relegated to the B team and a determination not to be in the shadow of Elon Musk. It also demonstrated Vance's awareness of something Trump expects from all subordinates, being publicly defended by them. Steadfast loyalty to Trump is a non-negotiable prerequisite. Vance understands this, which has been evidenced in acts such as publicly backing Trump's argument that his executive power should not be challenged by the courts. On X, the vice president argued that judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. On the foreign policy front, the American vice president has also come out fighting and showing his willingness to be Trump's Rottweiler in all arenas. In February in Munich, Vance used a speech to reprimand the continent's leaders for stepping away from fundamental values by suppressing free speech. Vance went on to criticise Washington's European allies some days later when he called out a UK-France plan for European troops to guarantee peace in Ukraine, stating the proposal was unworkable and could not be guaranteed by some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years. A key advantage that Vance enjoys over his Republican predecessor, Mike Pence, is that he does not have to navigate between the Republican establishment and MAGA factions of the party. Both these worlds have coalesced around Trump. Vance is also considered, like Trump, to be a spokesperson for MAGA values.